Our top story, well, all eyes are on the NATO summit that is currently underway in Lithuania, and Ukraine is set to dominate the agenda among world leaders. But the road ahead for its membership to the NATO is not a straight one. While Biden has been non-committal on Ukraine's impending membership, the US President Joe Biden was welcomed to the NATO summit by the NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. He acknowledged the summit as a critical moment for Ukraine's impending entry to the alliance. He also said that adding Finland and Sweden to NATO has been consequential.
Good to be here, and thank you for continuing to deliver. As I've made no mistake, the press is not at all surprised. I've been touting the fact that I think it's really important at this critical moment in Ukraine, in the whole NATO issue, that you continue to lead NATO. You're trusted. No one knows the situation that we're facing better than you do. And this is a historic moment. The adding of Finland and Sweden to NATO is consequential, and your leadership really matters.
While Zelensky has sharply criticized that expected language, saying that the uncertainty over Ukraine's membership is a motivation for Russia to continue its terror in its full-scale invasion.
The security reality here on NATO's eastern flank depends on Ukraine. When we applied to join NATO, we were frank. Ukraine is de facto already in the alliance. Our weapons are the weapons of the alliance. Our values are what the alliance believes in. Our defense is the very element of the formula of Europe that makes it united, free and peaceful. Vilnius must confirm all of this.
And NATO Secretary General said that allies at the summit will issue a clarification on how Ukraine can become a member of the alliance in the future, saying there was hope of a positive message soon on Ukraine.
All put together, including that we make clear that Ukraine will become a member, we remove the membership action plan, we make their forces interoperable NATO forces, we establish a NATO-Ukraine Council. All that together will send a very strong and positive message from NATO to Ukraine.
And on the eve of the summit, the alliance achieved a key breakthrough. Meanwhile, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with the Swedish Prime Minister and NATO Secretary General for special talks on Sweden's membership, following which Stoltenberg announced that Turkey had agreed to move ahead with Sweden's NATO bid. The Swedish Prime Minister hailed this decision.
I'm very happy. The three of us, the President of Turkey, the Secretary General of NATO, and myself, have shaken hands over this joint statement. We are thus taking a very big step towards the formal ratification of Sweden's membership in NATO. It has been a good day for Sweden.
And while Hungary and Turkey were the last NATO members to ratify Sweden's accession, meanwhile, Russia has warned NATO from accepting Ukraine's bid, saying it will have negative consequences for Europe's security architecture. And for the very latest on this, our correspondent Alex Kadia is joining us live from Brussels. And Alex, thanks very much for talking to us. So Ukraine clearly dominating the issues at the NATO summit. But as Zelensky pointed out, he was disappointed that there was not a clear messaging on its membership and its future in the NATO.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. President Zelensky calling it absurd that there will not be a clear sign of Ukraine's invitation to the NATO alliance. Very strong language from the Ukrainian president in response to what we know are leaks of possible language in this final communique. This is the statement that all NATO leaders issue at the end of the summit, like the one that's going on in Lithuania at the moment. Now, the one line that we've heard leaked from is the NATO position will be, we will be in a position to extend an invitation to Ukraine when allies agree the conditions are met. And that is the language that President Zelensky has certainly taken exception to, certainly frustration. He's been clear from the beginning that NATO membership is important, and he also decried the adding of those conditions are met, and we don't know exactly what those conditions are. We know at least that the end of the war will be one of those conditions. Ukraine cannot join and cannot be invited to join so long as it is in an active conflict, certainly in the face of Russia's invasion. But really strong language from the Ukrainian president. Part of his motivation, perhaps, as he has said several times, is that NATO membership as an objective, as well as EU membership. NATO membership is something that really motivates those Ukrainian troops to keep fighting, to try to push back the Russian invasion of their country so that they can have a safer future within the NATO alliance. So President Zelensky, who is expected in Vilnius in the next couple of days, very frustrated with that statement, or at least draft statement from those NATO leaders so far.
Right. And Alex, of course, it seems like there has been a rethink from countries like the US and other top nations about Ukraine's membership. What is driving that, even as, you know, country after country is announcing defense deals and acquisitions to Ukraine, you know, France being the latest, saying that they will provide long-range missiles to Ukraine as well. Is this, you know, a step back as they worry about, you know, acting as a bloc against Russia and the consequences of that?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a step back, but it's certainly not yet a step forward, and that will be the frustration from President Zelensky. We know that US President Joe Biden broadly agrees with that language that I just mentioned. He said that in a press conference or in a statement with Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO. So there is support from the United States, obviously a very influential member of the NATO alliance, probably certainly the biggest member and therefore the most influential. Germany also a little bit reluctant to offer promises. There's a variety of reasons why, obviously not wanting to exacerbate things and further provoke Russia, but certainly hard to see how the relationship between the United States and Russia at the moment could get any worse, but also not having a clear picture of what exactly that membership will look like and when it will happen. There have been debates about the process, for example, something called the Membership Action Plan, which any new country to join NATO has to have, which is a roadmap basically of how they will join the alliance. That includes things like military alignment, so aligning a new country's military technology and tactics with those tactics and technology of the NATO alliance. Now, Ukraine certainly moving very quickly in that direction, as we know, with increased numbers of military equipment from the NATO alliance, but also democratic reforms and societal reforms that the Ukraine will have to go through. So there's a question as to whether or not that process is made easier for Ukraine. That isn't clear yet, but certainly the key players at least slowing down, not stopping, but slowing down the process of that Ukrainian membership would be the United States and Germany. And on the other hand, you have the Baltic states like Lithuania, which is hosting this summit, who are fiercely supportive of that Ukrainian membership. We've seen the president of the Czech Republic, Petr Pavel, just a few days ago, very much pushing hard for that timeline to be given. There's a frustration certainly from those countries, but that is the nature of NATO. They are 31 members and they have to come to a unanimous decision altogether, and until they have it, they won't move forward on that Ukrainian membership.
Very much, Alex, for joining us with the very latest. There are quite clearly many different opinions within the NATO, and we'll have to wait to watch, see the final statement at the end of the summit to know more about what the wording is for Ukraine's membership. Thanks, appreciate you joining us today.